This is the Global Broadcasting Service, serving remote outposts since 1928.
Hi, everyone. Welcome aboard the Walt Disney World Express monorail.
Caramba, we have something really big for you today.
Welcome, foolish mortals.
Now then, hang on to them hats and glasses, because this here's the wildest ride in the wilderness.
This is the DBC Pod with Phil Schoen and Jason Dodge. Hey everybody, welcome to this week's pod. This is the show for the week of October 10th, 2022. Recording on a Monday again, but a lot of stuff going on that we're going to go over. We're going to check in on our ADR status, and I get to yell at Phil at one of our topic points. But we all booked our ADRs. We know where we're going to be eating and know what we're going to be trying to get in the coming weeks. We're going to be doing our this week's Hour Takes on quick service locations throughout property, not just in the parks. And some DBC engagement on some ideas to come up for future dining at Walt Disney World. So a little bit of a theme. I just realized, Phil, we've got quick service and Imagineering dining ideas from our community. But first, we're going to touch on what's going on our Disney World, Phil. So take it away. What have we been hearing this week, sir?
So I thought I'd start with a popular or a happy topic, I guess a positive topic. People are very excited to see that the Give Kids the World Night of a Million Lights is going to return this year. This is something they did during the COVID period when they weren't able to actually use the Give Kids the World Village because they couldn't bring kids that were sick and in need during COVID there. And so to help raise funds, they decorated a lot of the houses. Different places would sponsor one of the houses with tons of lights, and it was a great event, raised a lot of money, and it was kind of reasonably priced, but because of what it was, they were able to raise a lot of money. When they were able to bring the kids back, which is obviously great, they couldn't have hundreds and thousands of people traipsing through there to see the pretty lights. But what they have announced is they're able to bring it back this year, except instead of being at the actual village, they're going to be using the Island H2O water park. And they're going to transform that into a sparkling wonderland from November 11th through January 1st. For people who don't know where the Island H2O water park is, it's basically in or next to the Margaritaville that is really close to the back entrance to Disney property right by Animal Kingdom. So kind of more on the west side. And so it's actually really close to property. Obviously, you'd have to, if you're staying on property and you'd want to go to that, you'd have to arrange for transportation and stuff like that. But they highlight Santa will be there, and there's 5-story dancing lights show and more. And it's pretty reasonably, depending on kind of what day you go. Prices range from $30 adults, $15 kids to $40 adults and $20 kids. So I haven't been able to do it in the past, but I know a lot of people loved it, thought it was a great event. This looks really fun. We might try to squeeze it in when we're down there in December, but it's just the schedule's getting packed.
Phil, don't do it. I mean, it's a great cause. And if you had a longer trip, I would say yes. But with you getting hoppers, you now managing Genie Plus, do not try to go off property, my friend. It's going to crush your soul.
Yeah, I think maybe I'll just I mean, I usually give donations to Give Kids the World anyway. Maybe I'll just make a little extra one and save.
There you go.
Save this.
Perfect.
Spot. But if something, this is something. If you hadn't seen that this is coming back, and like you said, you're down in the area for maybe you are staying off property or you just have a longer trip. Definitely think about it. And obviously for folks that are local, I think it makes for a nice.
Everybody loves it. Everybody never has said a bad word about it as far as value or time or whatever. It's always they put on a good show.
Yep. And they're actually kind of nothing like there wasn't one big dominating thing, but a number of little park updates and rumors. So one thing that everybody was happy to see is that the railroad track installation at the Tron site looked fairly darn complete in the last photos that I was seeing from BioReconstruct and some others.
The only piece I haven't seen was leading into Tron from right around the Storybook Circus.
Oh, from the other side? Yeah. I thought they were working on that before, but I don't know if they finished that.
Maybe I'm seeing older pictures. But
yeah.
Phil, is it going to be ready when we're down there? Is it?
I don't know. I mean, I thought Tron was going to be open. It's not. So, yeah, I mean, I certainly hope so. I mean, it certainly would. I mean, it's been 5 years since the railroad's been running.
Yeah.
Be nice to hear the the horn, during the holiday season as we're going around.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm hoping it's open by December. It certainly looks like we even saw today. I noticed they were planting trees and stuff like that in the Tron area. So that's a sign that it could be open by the time.
Well, I mean, as long as it doesn't take much to test the tracks, right? I mean, they can lay the tracks. It's they test them obviously, but it's not like they have to burn them in like a new roller coaster type of thing, right? They've been training cast members and doing all that other stuff for a couple months now, right? At least getting the maintenance going and everything else. I don't think there's anything holding them back other than making sure the tracks are laid down, the area is free and clear for construction, like they don't need to get through it anymore. And if the tracks are there, you've already closed off once. You're not getting heavy machinery across it anymore at that point, right? So once it's laid, there's nothing stopping them. So as long as all the safety checks out and the inspections are done, we still got just shy of 60 days, obviously, because we just did our ADRs. It could get done. There's a small chance. I want to say, right?
And so I did put this down in the show notes. So if it is open for our trip, does it become a must-do for you?
Yes.
Yeah,
of course. I mean, if it opens like a week before, like we're going to be the first people or first round of people going on it, since you have to do it. I mean, when the last time I did it was in 2017, that is by far one of the best things to kind of just like chill and relax. I mean, you take a couple loops around the park and then you get off and you got to do whatever. So it's like the shade, it's fun, it's kinetic. You get to see some angles of the park that you're not used to seeing. I mean, I think it's a no-brainer to me.
Yeah. The only hiccup I saw was because we are doing a shorter trip with limited time in Magic Kingdom. If it like opens like the day before we're there or something like that, and there's huge lines for it, I don't know, it might be a little hard to wait, an hour and a half or whatever to get on the train if there's stuff like that. But hopefully it's open, a few weeks before we go there, and it's still fresh and new. It still has that new train smell.
Yes.
But isn't too crazy lines. So one other thing we saw was our friend of the show, Scott Gustin, had posted this list of all the things that are still expected at Walt Disney World in 2022, which, as we mentioned, we're getting towards the end of, but we don't have exact dates. So these are things that Disney, it has either, hinted at or flat out said that this will open in 2022. So maybe I will give you the list of items and you can comment if you think this will definitely open or if these things will get pushed to 2023.
Okay.
Phantasmic.
Definitely opening by the end of the year.
Yeah. And I was going to add, there's a rumor going around that I was hoping it might actually come out today, that there's the announcement of the reopening date is supposed to come very soon, hearing from, different CMs and other sources. Len Testa posted he's hearing November 3rd might be the date that it opens, but we'll see. But hopefully, if you have a trip in mid to late November or beyond, good chances Phantasmic will be open, but we'll find out.
I think they want this for the holiday season to spread out crowds. I think that's what they're missing.
We've been hearing they've been having some technical issues. I think with the Maleficent Dragon, they were having some challenges that pushed things back a little bit, but hopefully it should be soon. This one, I think everyone was still shocked that these aren't back yet, but Epcot and Hollywood Studios still do not have their parking lot tramps.
It's weird. That's just strange. There's no reason for that.
All right, so that could come back whenever, but I guess we'll see. The Hey Disney sort of Alexa thing in the rooms was supposed to come in 2022. That still hasn't been added.
I had to Google this because I totally forgot what it was, and I don't know what the point is. I mean, I think it's just I don't think anybody wants it or needs it, and so I doubt we ever see this. This is something that might be cut, I think.
This was also something, because I went to Destination D23 last November, and this was something that they said everyone in attendance was going to get one of these and that you'd get an email. We still haven't gotten the email.
Yeah, we're never seeing this thing.
It's like, well, they'll just forget about it.
Like what I mean, it's a cool idea, right? Like everybody loves the idea of like interactive rooms and your trip and everything else like this. But like, are you really spending that much time in your room? And do you need another device to tell you things that isn't your phone? I mean, like, what is the functionality of this?
And plus, at least because we don't have an Alexa or anything like that, but some of our friends do. And whenever we go there, my kids are always just like, Alexa, play the Gummy Bear song, or like something super annoying. And I could totally picture that's what would happen.
Oh,
as soon as we get in the rooms, the kids would yell like, we'd have to say, Alexa, turn off.
Yeah, well, we run our kitchen off of Alexa. It's the timers. We use it to play music. We have Amazon Music in this house. So, D Park Radio is one of our favorites. Shout out to D Park Radio. They play park music for us during dinner time almost every single night. So we can't live without it. But in my hotel room, I don't need it. And it's kind of weird if they're listening in and stuff like that. Maybe that's the
I'm not I don't need more things listening to me as I talk into a microphone.
Yes, of course.
So Toy Story characters, including the Green Army Men Drum Corps, is supposed to return to Toy Story Land by the end of this year.
I mean, I don't get this. I've seen them. There's like one or two that go kind of like in a cavalcade, but I'm assuming it's like the full on.
Yeah, it's supposed to. They're supposed to leave the cavalcade thing is supposed to end, and they're supposed to go back where they playing their drums and everything, and kind of have their like little show that they've done in the past.
Okay. I mean, is it coming back? Probably not this year.
Speaking of that area, the Roundup Rodeo Barbecue Restaurant is still supposed to come by the end of this year. And we were seeing construction work on the front of it, but we have no idea what the status of the inside of the restaurant is.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because people just, I think it was like a week or two ago, either it was like Matt was listing this on his DCI and talking about it, and this popped up on Twitter, a couple different Twitter feeds. And I'm like, oh yeah, I totally forgot about this and that they promised it. And then all of a sudden, within the last week and a half, you just seen all these pictures of construction, right? I haven't seen any pictures of construction or anybody like caring about it. And I didn't even notice when I was down there 2 months ago. It looked normal. And now we see this like kind of flurry of stuff. I mean, it'll be sneaky if this popped in by the end of the year. I very much doubt it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, you'd think we would have heard like postings for hiring people, staff and stuff like that. I mean, we still haven't opened up all the restaurants, haven't all reopened yet. So are they really going to open a new one that people haven't, they haven't worked out any of the kinks yet? I mean, like you said, they could open it. I mean, additional dining capacity during the holidays wouldn't be a bad thing.
That park needs something like this, though.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's the only reason why I think they want to rush this out is like Epcot doesn't need, for example, Akershus is still closed, right? They don't need that at Epcot.
Yeah, Hollywood Studios could definitely use this more than Epcot could use Akershus.
Or Magic Kingdom or Animal Kingdom. Hollywood, because we'll talk about this later with ADRs, but there's nothing at Hollywood Studios that makes me want to make sure I go there to eat.
Yeah. Other characters, Pluto, Daisy, Donald, and Goofy still haven't returned to Pete's Silly Sideshow in the Magic Kingdom.
Strange to me.
Yeah, just other character. I guess it just comes down to hiring and stuff like that, but still, you think they could have had that by now?
I mean, I don't think it comes down. I mean, yes, obviously it comes down to hiring. You need people to do it, but I think if Disney really wanted to, they could do this. And I don't know why it's not there. It seems ridiculous.
Yeah. And then the last thing, which they did recently, the vice president of Epcot just a week or two ago announced that this is definitely still coming by the end of the year, the DuckTales World Showcase Adventure. So I can't imagine they would have said that if it wasn't fairly certain that it was going to happen by the end of the year. But
this will be. See. I'm kind of looking forward to this. I'm not one for like the in park like scavenger hunt type of things. To me, I don't know. Maybe my kids like it or whatever. But my wife wants to do the Christmas or holiday cookie. Whatever.
Well, there's the cookie stroll and
it's
then
cookie stroll.
The,
thank you.
Yeah,
that we wanted to do that. I'm like, okay, let's give us a reason to kind of go around. But I'm like, we've got 2 Epcot days coming up. I'm like, maybe one day we can do this if it's there, and then something else. The cookie stroll.
I remember we never actually did the previous ones when they had the Perry the Platypus one, but we saw other people doing it, and it actually made like animatronic things happen. It's like it was just adding another element of kinetic energy to the area. So I think it's great that it's coming.
Yeah, I know what I'm going to do it if it's there.
Yeah. I mean, again, this trip, it's a short one, so I don't know. But if we had a couple, 2-3 Epcot days, I definitely would have picked this up. And then the last news item, I just kind of wanted to do this to poke the bear, I guess, a little bit more. But Disney did announce that the 100th celebration will officially kick off at Disneyland on January 27th. So that's where they will have, the official launch of the anniversary. They announced a number of things there, incoming like the new nighttime shows and things. But they also announced that Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, which they're building from scratch over there, will open on that date. Meaning it was announced at the 2019 D23 Expo. whereas Tron was announced at the 2017 Expo, and it'll open before Tron.
It's ridiculous.
So it's just like puts into context how long Tron is taking.
Why does Disneyland seem more competently run? Maybe that's the wrong word, but like they get better things, they get more fun things, they get better parades, they get better additions.
Even just like all the characters, like they were already announcing that like Werewolf by Night, that new Disney Plus series, like I was out there like, oh, the characters in like Avengers Campus now, and they're like, I don't know, we can't get any additional character in Galaxy's Edge or anything like that. They're getting new characters every 2 weeks.
I mean, and more people come to Disney World. I mean, it's a bigger park. It's got more of a budget. I just don't know. Is it just because it's in California?
I think that's part of it, and it's just where they're that's one of the reasons they wanted to move Imagineering to Florida and stuff like that. I think just when you have everybody there, things maybe can, if there's issues, they can be fixed quicker. I do think in general they try to get more new things there because it's more locals, more regulars, so they need new things to kind of attract them back. Whereas if some families are only coming every 2 to 3 to 5 years to Walt Disney World, within 2 to 3 to 5 years there will be several new things.
That's a fair take. But
it still gets frustrating.
Yeah, for sure.
And that'll do it for the news.
All right, so we're going to put right here our takes. We've been doing it at the end of the show, and I don't like it at the end of the show, Phil. It seems like it's kind of tacked on. This is usually kind of fun type of thing to do. It's usually pretty quick. So this week we're going to get our takes over underrated takes of quick service locations, quick service things, and we didn't really go over the rules of this one, like what constitutes. It could be a bar maybe that happens to serve food or something else like that. So I'm gonna be lenient on what you could have picked, Phil.
Well, that is good because one of mine needs some leniency.
Well, mine too, actually. We do not know each other's picks. Typically, we write them down so we can kind of formulate some interesting takes on the other person's things. But we're going to be surprised. Now, I think let's do this, Phil. Let's both give our overrated, then properly rated, then underrated. Rather than going 1, 2, 3, let's go back and forth. So I'll go first with overrated. And I think the most overrated quick service location on property is Casey's. I just don't understand it. I love hot dogs. I just don't think I want it in a hot day at a park. It just seems like a lot of food. And it doesn't really look that appetizing. Like a loaded hot dog with chili or cheese or French fries or whatever they're putting together. If I'm sitting down at home with sweatpants and I can kind of like take a nap afterwards, maybe, but not at a theme park. That's my overrated one for this week.
So maybe we should have written things down because my overrated is Casey's as well.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
No, for very similar reasons, and also it's just hot dogs. It's just corn dog nuggets. And I remember when they like changed up the recipe for the corn dog nugget, you thought like the world was ending with the way people are reacting and stuff like that. So look, if it's one of those things that you have nostalgia for, and I think a lot of people do, they get the hot dog or whatever on Main Street. I don't see it. So
my youngest daughter loves hot dogs. So I'm going to buy one for her and see if she goes crazy for it. Cause that's one of her things. She's 4. So obviously 4-year-olds love hot dogs. Speaking of like Twitter craziness, maybe you can explain this to me. We're going to pause on our takes right now. You mentioned like one of the resorts is getting some new furniture, and you said people were going crazy on Twitter about it, on Discord. And I saw it. I wanted to ask, but I was at a football practice and I couldn't really get into it. So what's going on over there? So what's the backstory behind that?
So the Bellevue Lounge, which is at the Boardwalk Inn, debuted some new furniture. And people were going crazy or very upset. So I think a lot of people like that area, like the boardwalk. It has those scary nanny clowns or chairs and stuff like that. And it had just kind of more casual, like wicker furniture. And they put in, it's got like the tables now look like old trunks, and it has just kind of mismatched colored furniture, like greens and tans. And
it looked fancy from the quick shot that I saw.
Yeah, I think people, and I saw a lot of the reference of the calling it the Marriotism of Disney parks, that it's just starting to look more like generic hotels that could be wherever. And that's what this looked like. They ordered what was on sale at Wayfair. So, I mean, I thought it looked okay. I thought it was like too many similar shades of green and blue that were clashing with each other. It kind of felt like they had leftovers from different collections and put them together. So I didn't love it. I also didn't think it was like the end of the world, like the way people were going off on it. But
So, I mean,
like somebody posted like, I can't believe someone went to school for design and came up with this and stuff.
Oh
like,
my goodness.
Like, so I don't know. Like, I think it was people just have those hot, quick takes on Twitter as soon as they see something that's different at Disney. But
I love hot takes, right? I love like this. I mean, this. I'm sorry for interrupting our takes, but for this, but like, whenever I hear of people going nuts about one thing, I'm like, it's a hotel that you are staying at maybe once every 2 years, maybe once a year, or even the crazy maybe twice a year type of thing, and it's the lobby, right? Like.
This is one of the lounges, I guess, where you get drinks and stuff.
Oh,
like
is
that.
it? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It looked like the lobby in the picture, but okay,
I mean, it's kind of in the middle,
down.
open hour. Yeah, exactly. I think as long as they're comfortable and have somewhere to put your drink, like
I don't know,
it's not worrying too much.
It's fine. It's fine.
But it definitely was. It was like Exhibit A of they changed something and people like, how dare you change something? Yeah,
yeah, exactly. All right, properly rated quick service locations. Let's not get too lagged down on some tangents here, which I love doing tangents, but see, I'm doing a tangent of a tangent right now. Properly rated quick service locations. You go first this time, Phil.
So I picked Sunshine Seasons. That's in for those of you who don't know that's in the Land Pavilion in Epcot. I think it's a really good option. They have a lot of seating, solid food, a little bit of variety, different options for like kids meals and stuff like that. And I think most people see it as that. It's not like life-changing. It's not like my trip is ruined if I don't get there. But if it's like, we could use something to eat, we're kind of in the front part of the park. We're not in World Showcase. Let's grab something there. I know we can find something, something for everybody there. And I also found that for the value, because I thought the portions were pretty big. I usually for myself would order a kid's meal and it was like pretty decent size. So I always found it good, but I don't think it's, super over the top Disney themed that, I'm going to like totally schedule my day around it.
Right.
And I think that's how most people view it. So I think it's properly rated.
It'd be interesting if you bring this up when you finally meet my wife. She dislikes the whole Land Pavilion, only because she feels like it's from like a 1980s, 1990s mall, and she just doesn't
Which is
get
why
the
it's
decor.
Amazing.
Well, yeah, we had this conversation. I was like, everybody loves it because that's from their childhood. It brings back. She's like, I can see that, and she's just like, because again, this is an ADR conversation, which we'll be talking about later, because we're talking about Garden Grill. And that to us is a very overrated thing. I think we talked about this a couple shows ago, or at least before we started recording it at the very. I know we talked about it at some point, one of these nights. And in any case, she's like, I didn't want to spend money there. It looks like a place from a mall from my childhood. If we're going to Disney, spending all this money on a meal, I'd rather be somewhere else. So anyway, that led to the rest of the thing. Again, another tangent. Here we are. One of my properly rated quick service location is completely different reasoning from yours, but it's Satu'li's Canteen, right? To me, it's one of the best quick service locations on property. I always want to go there, and I regret not going my last trip, but I went to Sanaa instead. And I always bring this up on this show because I think it's excellent, but it's maybe 2 or 3 years ago, this would be an underrated thing, but I think so many people talk about this location now that like everybody knows it's awesome. So even though something is rated awesome, it's properly rated as awesome, right? It's not like, this is the spot that no one ever goes to. Everybody talks about it now because it's good. So it's properly rated as pretty darn good.
Yeah, I actually considered that one. And it was funny. I was talking my way through it. It was like, I think it's properly rated. In some ways, I still feel like it's underrated. But then you go through periods where everyone talks about it. So I was like, well, maybe it is over. I'm like, it's almost like I could almost consider it for all of them, which probably means it's properly rated. So yeah, I agree with that.
After 2.5 years, our brains are finally melding on these opinions. I don't know. All right, so underrated. I couldn't think of an underrated quick service location that, like all the quick services are either overrated because people love them way too much, or they're properly rated because it's a quick service meal. It's hard to underrate something. Yeah. So to me, I'm trying to think of something that there's two. I have two answers here, and I'm not satisfied with either one of them. It's either everybody knows about it, but people don't talk enough how convenient the location is, and that would be for me ABC Commissary, because it's got plenty of seating, indoors and outdoors. It's easy to get in and out of. Mobile ordering. When I went in July, it was crowded. Did mobile ordering outdoors. I was in and out in like 6 minutes because it operates like a cafeteria. It's efficient. Yeah. The food is decent for what it is.
I think it's also gotten better over the last few years.
Yes,
which I think helps.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's just it's underrated because I think people see it and be like, and then try to find something else at Hollywood Studios. The other one, I don't know if it's underrated or I just got turned on to it, but I haven't seen anybody else really talk about it, is the Banana Cabana at Caribbean Beach Resort. It's a really cool bar. It's got seating. You could order food and everything else like that. But when I was there on my previous vacation, and I'll be going back in December, it was like a really cool place to chill. You sit outside. It was never crowded that I saw it. And the bartenders were awesome. So when you're looking for a Caribbean-style bar to sit at and relax, I don't know. I think it wasn't crowded enough. If it had more people in it, maybe it was the wrong day. Maybe people don't consider it. But it's like a small place at a moderate resort that probably is not properly rated because it's tucked away somewhere. I don't know. Yeah,
we're big fans of Banana Cabana. I have to say, we've gone when it's been fairly empty. We've also been there when it's been packed and it's like hard to find a seat. So I think it's one of those where if you're a fan of Caribbean Beach, that's one of the reasons you're a fan of it. Like you like that place, but it's not necessarily a place, if you're not staying there, that you're going to go out of your way to get to.
Because if we do resorts later on, underrated resorts is Caribbean Beach Resort because it gets a lot of haters. I mean, I'm surprised by a lot of people like, I hate that resort or I will never go back. Maybe not hate, but I will never go back or that type of thing. I'm like, why? It's a pretty awesome resort. Anyway, again, another tangent.
We're going to have to do overrated, underrated tangents.
Yes, exactly. What is yours?
So I also had the one that's like a true quick service that I put was the Harambe Market at Animal Kingdom.
Oh, okay.
I think it's a really good place. I didn't pick it for my top choice because they've changed the menu and I don't think it's quite as unique as it used to be. But it's still like a fun place that is usually pretty easy to, pretty quick, like you were saying about ABC Commissary, and has, nice place to chill and stuff like that. I think it's something people don't think about.
The last time I ate there was like 2015. And I remember looking at all the different menus, like this is some good looking food coming out of it.
Yeah.
And I love the space. It was kind of like, I mean, it's one of my favorite parts of Animal Kingdom in Africa, and it's awesome. So I think that's a really good underrated one. I'm
my top choice.
Oh, there's more. Okay.
I had one more, which is my true pick, but like I said, I might need some leniency on counting it as a quick service. But Fair. It's the Brown Derby Lounge. So it's the outside area. You don't no reservations. But it's more of like a bar lounge area that you do get served at and stuff like that. But
I could see that. We almost ate there, but we were looking at the menu. There was nothing for my wife to eat. She's vegetarian, and she didn't feel like just having like a salad or something. She wanted.
Yeah, that's true. They're known for the Cobb salad, which obviously has bacon and stuff like that in it. So,
but she didn't want to. She wanted something like a little bit more hearty, and we went to ABC Commissary actually. But no, that's definitely underrated because when people think about it, they think Brown Derby, you got to go inside. It's expensive. It's a sit down meal, that type of thing. But you can walk right up. Hey, you got any availability? And Dee had it at like probably around 1:00, 1:30.
Yeah.
On a Saturday.
Yeah, usually can get in not too. I mean, you might have to wait a little bit, but it's not a problem. And you can get the full menu, or they have their like bar menu there.
Yep.
They do flights for martinis and margaritas, and it's just a fun place. And when they used to do the Star Wars show, you could watch the Star Wars show from there.
I was gonna say it's a very good angle for people watching if you just want to like chill. Like we did. The wife and I had breakfast right outside of Casey's at like 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning at Magic Kingdom. And we, in those tables that we sat right there, it's kind of down a little bit, but like, it's great just watching people going back and forth and having a cup of coffee, that type of thing. So that's a similar type of place where you can kind of just relax, have an adult beverage in the early afternoon and kind of slow things down a little bit. So I will give you the lenience for that one. I think that's actually a pretty good one. And if you don't realize this, there's a lot of places that have lounges that are hard to get into. So use that to your advantage. That's a little tip there.
Absolutely. And with that, I think we'll remind you of our social media accounts. So if you have a topic you'd like us to do over underrated, leave us a comment at either Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, on our YouTube channel, or TikTok at the DBC Pod. Or of course, you can talk to us on our Discord channel.
I have to mention, I've been lazy with TikTok. I have not been producing TikTok videos for at least a month now. I got so into it because it was taking me, but it took me like an extra 2 or 3 hours to do it every single show, and I just haven't had that time lately.
Yeah.
And every Monday night, Tuesday morning when I'm doing the show, I get super guilty for not doing that. But of course, then I have meetings or the kids run in and I don't have time for it. So I apologize for you guys out there. I'm thinking of some ideas how I can do it faster so I can get content out there on TikTok. But alas, here we are.
And a little update. So not much movement on the Disney Comeback Index. It did move up from, we're now at 89.25%. Slow
Close.
crawl to 90%. They announced the return of several Epcot tours, including the Behind the Scenes tour. Again, if we could get that Fantasmic announcement, that would be wonderful and move us above 90%. And welcome to new Discord member Little Family, who just joined right before we went on the air. So
literally 2 hours ago.
Yeah, so welcome.
Welcome. And again, if you're listening to this, please like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, or if you're listening on iTunes. 5-star reviews are really appreciated. And make sure you tell a friend to tell a friend about the show. And get more people watching. There's more people listening different people listening every single week. So we appreciate that very much. Okay, so we have 2 topics tonight that we're going to get to. We're going to do a quick little ADR update because we just kind of went through the whole process last week. And then the follow-up topic is gaming the system, which Phil did this time. And we're going to go over the ethical or moral question of doing that, I guess, right? We're going to debate that. And I don't think there's going to be much of a debate on this one, but I'll play devil's advocate for the sake of the show. But first, ADR update. Phil, why don't you go first since you have less ADRs, and maybe you can kind of talk about how you got them.
Yeah. So, and what we'll talk about related to gaming the system, I did book a second reservation, which gave me further access. So I had the full 60 plus 10 days.
Well, hold on a second. It's a additional vacation hotel reservation. We talked about this last week. It was like a shadow reservation. So it's not a dining reservation. It's an overlapping
hotel reservation. Yes. Yeah. So if I go into my Disney experience, I see my actual reservation at Animal Kingdom Lodge Kidani. I also see this other second reservation that I made. It's at Port Orleans Riverside, a 10-day stay, so that I get the full 10 days to look and make my reservations for my actual stay.
Is the last day of your 10-day the last day of your actual stay?
Yeah, so I made it I made it so the 10th day is my last full day.
Yep.
So not the day we check out. So this way I was able to log in on October 4th to make my ADRs. That was 60 days out. As Jason mentioned, I don't have too many, and none of them are of our ADRs are super hard to get, but it was just made everything super convenient that everything was wide open. I was able to get what I wanted. So on our first full day, which is that Friday, we did book Enzo's Hideaway for lunch. That was my son's request for his birthday. He really likes that place. I think, if we ever do underrated table services, I think that might be on the list because nobody ever thinks of it, but it's a really chill place.
And I don't think you would ever have an issue getting an ADR there, though, either.
No. Then we wound up booking, we were thinking of, at first my teenage daughter wanted to do Space 220. We had ate there before. We enjoyed it, but it is a little pricey. So I was like, well, let's do the lounge. So we get the experience, but don't pay as much money. The kids looked at the menu. They weren't really excited about that. And I also found out you can't book a table larger than 4 for the lounge. So I would have had to do like 2 reservations and make them overlap. And so we're like, well, let's think of something else. The kids picked eating at La Crêperie de Paris. So the new crepe place that's right outside of Remy's Ratatouille Adventure.
Are you going in, or are you getting from the takeout area?
So we got an actual reservation to eat inside. We've done the to-go, but we've never eaten inside. So we're going to do lunch there. I figure that'll be a good place on that day. That's our full Epcot day to kind of collect ourselves and figure out, well, what do we want to do next? Do we want to hop to Hollywood Studios, hop to Magic Kingdom, that sort of thing. So I thought that'd be a good place. The other thing that I booked that day, though, is a tour. And this is probably where having that shadow reservation helped me the most, which I was able to book the Up Close with Rhino tour at Animal Kingdom for Sunday the 11th. That they only do that once a day. I think it's only like 15 people or something like that. So it fills up really fast. That's what we're doing on our Sunday. That's the one reservation we have. And then obviously 2 days later, that is when the candlelight processional dining packages opened up. This was a little bit of a process. We eventually got what we wanted. which is we're going to be doing a beer garden. We've never eaten there before. It looks fun. It'll be decorated for the holidays and stuff. It was interesting. At first, when I logged in, I was searching for a table for 5, and the only thing that came up was like 350. That's it, like the one slot. I was like, really? They're already gone already? Eventually, we found that if we searched for a table for 6, plenty of options came up. So just, I guess, a little bit of a tip, if you have kind of that odd number of people, sometimes moving up one actually opens up more reservations for that.
Is that on Friday?
No, we're doing that Saturday.
Yeah,
So we're starting the day at Magic Kingdom, and then we'll be hopping to Epcot, and we have that for 5:35, and that goes with the 8:30 show. We'll get our seats for that, which we wanted to get because Josh Gad is the narrator that night, and we assume it will be very popular, and we don't want to wait online for like 4 hours.
No.
One last thing I did want to mention. Obviously, generally the reservations open up at 6 a.m. We got into Beer Garden. We were seeing them a little bit before 6 a.m. I heard online afterwards they actually opened at about 5:40. So advice, start checking, 5:40, 5:45 on your day. And also for the tour, for the Up Close with Rhino, that actually opened up at midnight.
Ooh,
so
good
I actually checked the night before it. Same thing, 60 plus 10 days out, but at midnight the tour opened versus having to wait till like 6 in the morning.
And I think that's where like Genie Plus opens up for the day too, if I remember correctly.
That's when you can start buying, Genie Plus.
Just buying the service
for the day. Yeah, exactly.
So I think if you're looking at dining, it's always going to be at 6 o'clock. But sometimes with like tours or extra things that you can buy the day of, it starts either when it ticks over 12:01 or throughout the morning. It's kind of random. Yep. I've seen this for different type of packages before. It's kind of crazy.
Yep.
Okay, so for my trip, it came down to like a couple days before we finally actually planned what we wanted to do. We've been kind of talking where we want to eat. My wife doesn't hate, strong word. She gets agitated about thinking about where she wants to eat. Like she's type of the people that like if she was in charge of planning this, she would never have planned like 100 or 6 months out, like ADRs and stuff like that back in the day, type of thing. But so we chose where we wanted to go right after about a day or two before. And I think, did I mention last week on the show that we're going down a day early and then we're doing the Disney Spring thing?
I'm trying to remember if you mentioned. I think you only mentioned it like online or to me. I don't think we've talked about it on the show.
So quickly, our check-in day is the 7th. We were going to drive down the 6th, take the kids out of school halfway through the day, and then just hit the road and drive down, which gets us into Orlando at like 3 a.m. This is what we did last year, week after Labor Day. And I do not want to arrive and then immediately throw our bag somewhere and go to Magic Kingdom. That seems like way too... Or no, excuse me. Crash at a random hotel at 3 o'clock, sleep for 4 hours, and then start our day, in Orlando on the day of our check-in, because check-in's not until about 4 o'clock. So I said, okay, what's the point of sending the kids off to school for 3 hours and then pulling them out and then driving? Why not on Monday, just normal day, and then we'll leave at 8 p.m. or whatever, like normal bedtime is, and then we'll just go down, and then we'll hit Orlando around noon on Tuesday, the day before our checkout. I'm going to go hotwire.com, a express deal, and see if I can somehow book a Disney hotel that day for super cheap. And then from there, just go to Disney Springs, kind of ease into everything, and then we'll wake up and then start our day going to Magic Kingdom and dropping stuff off at the park. So that being said, we wanted to do some dining the first full day there. And one of the things I'm excited to do again is Crystal Palace with all the interactions and everything else, because it's all back up and back to the way it used to be. And I was kind of pretty stoked about it. So I wanted to do Crystal Palace for like brunch or so on Wednesday. And then Thursdays are Hollywood Studios Day. We didn't want to book anything in that park. We weren't really excited about anything. Friday is our first full Epcot day. I wanted to do Topolino's as late as possible, and they close at 12:15. So I wanted to try to get something there. Could not do that. We decided we wanted to do Be Our Guest. We wanted to bring our youngest daughter in there and meet the Beast, that whole type of thing. So they still do that at dinner. So we were going to do that for Saturday night. And then Sunday's our party day. We weren't going to do anything that day. And then on Monday, our last day there, we wanted to do the Candlelight Processional as well. So that's not too many ADRs. But then just issues just started piling it up, and I just wanted to start screaming into the computer because I've never had this many
We
problems
felt
with
so
ADRs.
bad for you when you like posted on. You're like, today was my ADR day. I got nothing I wanted. We're
Nothing.
like, what? No.
Nothing. So a couple of tips here. I was able to start spamming the website. The website is completely different now than what it used to be, or last time I was booking ADRs. There's actually a little pop-up screen where you can keep clicking to check availability versus the last time. So it's a little bit better of a UI, which I actually liked. If you recall some of the tips for virtual queues, that you should start spamming 10 minutes after 6 o'clock. To get the Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind VQ. It still works with ADRs as well. So if you don't get something at 6, as soon as 6:10 hits, start spamming those buttons. And you should be spamming the buttons to check availability all throughout the first 10 minutes because people are constantly changing and adapting and stuff like that. So things pop open. So I wanted to do Crystal Palace the day that we arrived, or our first full day. I managed to get one at 2:20. But to me, that was a little bit late. I wanted to be leaving the parks around like 3, 4 o'clock and get back to the resort and kind of just chill for the first night that we were there. So 2:20 might be a little bit late, and that kind of pushes over to dinner, and it's just kind of an awkward time of the day. So I have that. Hollywood Studios Day, I got Savi's workshop. We're gonna build a lightsaber. That had massive availability. However,
That's interesting that the lightsaber still did, because I know when I was checking another time, the droid was wide open, but the lightsaber seemed to still fill up quickly. So I'm glad you got that.
yeah, I mean, I had my pick of time, so we're doing it in the middle of the morning. On Friday, our Epcot day, I want to do Topolino's. Topolino's has zero availability for every single day that I'm there at any hour of the day. It's completely
That definitely
gone.
seems to be the ADR to get now.
Yeah, and that's something that if you want to get this, you need to book like a month shadow reservation. Again, we'll talk about that. Our good friend Matt from the DCI, he has a reservation for this. He managed to get one, and he's like, maybe I could give it to you if we decide not to use it. Again, that's another gaming the system thing there. We could talk about that also in that group. But it's at 9:30. I don't want to do it at night. I don't want to do that in the middle of the day. That's a park day. We wanted to go to the park, hit all the major rides, Remy's Frozen Test Track, and then go back to breakfast and chill, and then come back at the later night and just do some fun things. That was what we wanted to do. So again, Epcot Day, we've got nothing, so we're just gonna eat stuff at Epcot, quick service, eat some.
And they'll have
holiday
all
fun.
I was gonna say they'll have the holiday booths and stuff. So I'll be
Exactly.
finding something to eat at Epcot is not an issue.
So one of the main motivations I wanted to do Topolino's was Mickey and Minnie. I wanted my youngest daughter to meet Mickey and Minnie at like a meal because it's a little bit more. I think it's a little better than a meet and greet that you can find at some of the different parks. It's really cool. Get much better pictures, in my opinion. So instead of doing that, I then looked for Chef Mickey's for any time of the day on the day that we arrived. Maybe instead of going back to the resort, we go back to the Contemporary and just kind of go for like dinner or maybe breakfast. I looked again for Chef Mickey's on Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday, and could only find like an 8:30 dinner reservation, but nothing else. I then looked for Hollywood and Vine on our Hollywood Studios Day. Nothing was available that day either, which kind of lends me to believe that they're holding back dining packages for Fantasmic. Other people have mentioned that as well. So I completely blanked, and I'm like, oh, I'll just go to the Tusker House on our Animal Kingdom Day and see if we could do breakfast. And I managed to book I think a 9:30 Tusker House reservation for Animal Kingdom Day, which I'm not altogether, or excuse me, a 10 o'clock reservation. I'm not altogether happy with that, but it'll give us plenty of time to kind of go in, do a whole bunch of stuff, and then go get breakfast. But I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get Satulu's Canteen then in because it's just going to be too much food at that point, I think.
Yeah.
So anyway, my daughter meeting Mickey, Minnie, and Donald and Goofy oversets the food that my kids aren't going to eat anyway from Satulu's.
Tusker House is a great option.
Yeah, it is. And I love the food there. It's absolutely phenomenal. I might see if I can get something earlier. I don't know. I have to kind of think about that. We got plenty of time. And then on Monday, here's the thing. I wanted to get Candlelight Processional. So everything else was failing on me. I couldn't get Crystal Palace. Oh, excuse me. And then I got Be Our Guest. And I was trying to search for dinner. I didn't think dinner at Be Our Guest, because of the price, was going to be available. It was booked solid. And after a bunch of refreshing, I managed to book a 3 o'clock reservation for Be Our Guest dinner. So I'm like, all right. So basically, we're going to eat dirt cheap for everything that day and just shove a whole bunch. I mean, it's literally the first serving of dinner because I think dinner opens at 3 o'clock on there. So we managed to get that. So I'm like, all right, candlelight processional. I'm panicking, and I managed to get right off the bat a hit for Rose and Crown at like 6:15 or something. And I'm like, this is a little late. Let me see if I can find something earlier. So instead of booking it and then going back to change it, I just hit back because there were plenty of times like listed at that point. I'm like, okay, this is not going like hotcakes at this time. Go back, nothing. So I'm like, oh, and I pound my table. I'm like, no. And then I go, oh wait, I found a beer garden one for like $3.50 or like early afternoon type of stuff. And I'm like, oh, my wife's not going to want to eat here, but being a vegetarian, she doesn't like the whole brat and everything else over the kind of thing there. And then I'm like, all right. So I start panicking. I'm like, I'm getting depressed. And then I keep refreshing. And then at 6:10 a.m., Rose and Crown for, I think, what is it? I'm scrolling here. I'm looking at my reservation here. For 5:55 pops up for Rose and Crown with an 8:30 show, party at 5. And I'm like, this is perfect. This is exactly what I was looking for. I'm like, all right, at least I got something. This was like just after I posted and I got nothing.
Yeah.
Right. And I managed to swing that. So, and then as I'm now looking over the landscape of despair and ruin of my vacation, I managed to book a second Crystal Palace reservation for Saturday at, I think it's like 9 o'clock in the morning, I want to say, 9:10. And so I've got a 9:10 reservation for Crystal Palace and a 3:05 for Be Our Guest. I'm going to drop one of these. And I suspect it's going to be the 9 o'clock one, so we're not doubling up on a big meal in the same day type of thing. We can kind of spread out that experience a little bit. But, man, the ADRs were tough. I've had issues with Chef Mickey's before, but like there was always the option of like a late meal or a late breakfast or an early lunch, like the fringe times that there's always availability for that. There is absolutely nothing across the board on everything. And I'm like, are the parks going to be like super busy, or is it just like they don't have capacity at this point, or they're not dropping as many ADR slots as usual?
I think it's a little of. I think it's everything's still not fully staffed, and I think they're cautiously how much they release because of that. Yeah. They don't want to over release things and then find that they don't have the staff to handle it.
I suspect as well. So I'm relatively happy with what I got. I was not expecting Be Our Guest to fill up. I suspect I can get my Be Our Guest time the week of, if not the day before. Doing that. So I've got I belong to Touring Plans, so they've got 2 slots that basically ping the website for you and notify you with a text message or an email when they find a slot, so you can move quickly. And I'm going to be with anything else, right? I'm constantly changing these things to the day before. So the only one I wanted to do, and I ended up not going for, is Oga's Canteen. I don't think the kids will want to sit there for 45 minutes. And then originally we were going to think about doing Garden Grill, and then my wife's like, I have no interest in eating there. It's not a very good menu for her that she's found appetizing with her dietary lifestyle. So we kind of changed that around a little bit. But overall, I'm happy with my 60-day mark, and it's anchored by that candlelight processional. And that's the only thing that I'm happy about, and we're going forward. So that leads right to gaming the system, because we're so desperate to make sure that we are, right? Like we're sitting there, we're waking up super early, we're anxiety driven about making sure we have the right things. We've been planning this. I kind of planned this on the fly a couple days beforehand, but like you know the impact of not getting the right dining reservation has on your touring plan, because our families don't know what we go through to make sure that they have like the perfect, vacation. But even if you don't get even getting the wrong time kind of just puts the flow off of how you're kind of timing everything. And especially with the way we do things, right, Phil? So There's different tips and tricks on how to get different ADRs. Before we get to shadow reservations, I'll talk about a couple of these things that cause issue because things are so difficult. People will go ahead and overbook reservations and just hold on to them until they decide what the proper time is. I have 2 Crystal Palace reservations. I'm not giving either one of those up until I finally decide which way I want to go. And that might not be a week before I go because there's no reason for me there's no penalty for me keeping them, and there's no reason why I should drop them. I'm probably going to drop them because I want another family to be able to book it at this point. And we're like 90% leaning towards the first day using that one. But there's a lot of people like Matt that have a bunch of this stuff booked, but they're constantly tweaking where they're going to be, what they're going to be doing. So like if they decide not to be at that park that one day, all of a sudden that reservation needs to be freed up. But they've been holding on to it for a month, right? And Uber planners will go out there and just start booking every single reservation they could think of if there's a chance that they're going to be at that park or that place on property or whatever. So you might have somebody that has twice as many reservations that they're going to use, but there's no chance they're using all of them. So there's some morality, I guess, or ethical question there. But Disney allows you to do it, right? There's no penalty. And for all Disney knows, you could be all over the place just spending all that money. So they don't want to stop people from doing that either. And then you have your system where you're booking a reservation just to get access to those ADRs, and you're getting a refund. Obviously, you think it's right because you're using it, but I think you more lean towards I'm doing it because everybody else is doing it, so I got to play, on the level playing field, so to speak, right? Is that where you're coming from?
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people that this is their standing operating procedure. This is what they do every trip. They let me know, they inform me about it. Obviously, Disney's system lets you do it.
Yep.
It's the way the system is designed that having this reservation grants you access to it. But yeah, when I talked about it last week, we got a lot of feedback on it. Some of it was like, yep, that's what we do all the time, and that's how it works for me. Other people commented, I hadn't heard about that, but that's genius. I'm definitely going to do it next time.
Yeah.
And then I had a few people saying, this is why we can't have nice things, because there's people like you doing these types of things when, even if the system lets me do it, is it really within the spirit of what Disney wants it set up as? And so I think there's a little bit of that gray area. I do definitely think there's a difference between, say, this and like flagrantly, trying to violate the rules, like, people who sneak alcohol into the parks by putting in some other bottle, or park at Disney Springs to avoid having to pay for parking and things like that. Like I don't think it's that crosses that line, but I think it is a little bit of a gray area where, the intent isn't to have making a second reservation that you're only doing it to expand your access, right? So I don't know, is it the same thing as other people logging into your account to give you more options to get a virtual queue? Is it, there's a lot of different things that people do to increase their odds to get things that they work the system. And I don't know, it did make me think a little bit. I was just, like I said, I was doing it because other people, always do it. And I was like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's how the system works. I'm going to work with the confines of the system. It's just like if I'm hitting, all the different tips and tricks to get more Fast Pass Plus back in the day and stuff like that.
Well, let's put it in this context. Disney doesn't care because those tables are being used anyway.
Yeah.
Right. Two, if Disney really wanted to do something, they could tie the reservations to your vacation stay, right? So
Correct.
You have to.
Yeah, they could tie the dining reservation to your resort reservation
Correct.
directly versus just to your My Disney Experience account.
Right. So they wanted to do that. They could do that. I've heard stories told of years and years ago where there was a collective of people that would book basically every single Cinderella's Royal Table reservation for the whole day and hold them hostage and change them and whatever. Like, these are people that had no intention of going to the parks that day at all, but that was the game they played every single day. So, I mean, and then Disney, that's where Disney put in $25 deposit on some of these things. So they could do something like that for, that type of table. I mean, I know on the Disney Dish with Len Testa and Jim Hill, they were talking about this about a month ago for a similar situation. But, I mean, to me, booking an earlier reservation is not that big of a deal, because if you're going to be the person that complains about this is why we can't have nice things, You know what? I don't want to say complaining. That's a valid complaint, right?
No,
so
it's
not
definitely
whining or anything. It's valid.
Yeah,
it's valid
I
to
definitely
think
want
that
to say
way.
I'm definitely taking it to heart. It's a legit concern because people are trying to do this as well, and they feel other people have an advantage. It's not.
Yeah, but like
Is it a level playing field?
If you're really concerned about that, you're not the type of person waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning also to get these things, most likely. Because if you, yeah, well, I mean, I'm speaking for maybe not the people that commented to you, but like on the greater scheme of things, if you really wanted a reservation, you know that there's things to do. So like these shadow reservations, you can certainly do that. And you're getting like 3 or 4 day head start. It's not like you're doing this like you're not walking reservations like a DVC member would. And that's a whole nother thing that I can see as a valid complaint. This is, I mean, 3 or 4 days ahead of time. I think what I did is more morally or ethically bankrupt or whatever you want to call it, holding multiple reservations because you don't know when you're going to. I mean, I made them legitimately, but I'm holding multiple of them because I don't know what time I want to go. And I mean, to me, I should probably make up my mind and release them so somebody else can get them. But I don't know what my mind is going to be at this point because they're booked out so far in advance at this point. I don't want to miss out, so I'm gonna hold on to it, at least for the short term right now, and maybe I'll release it sometime in the next week when I kind of revise where everything is, and then. All the services that provide notification when slots open up, Touring Plans does it. There's other services that you can spend more money and you can have, like Touring Plans allows you to search for 2 reservations at a time. There's more that travel agents can sign up for, or anybody really, and buy into it, where you can check up to like 30 at a time. And basically all you're doing is the website's pinging the Disney website with a script and finding those time slots. And you can find them, as soon as one opens up, the back-end code is spitting that out way before it is even if somebody spamming the button on the website finds it. And is that ethically, is that cheating, right? Because you're using a script and a service to spam all these things to find open slots. There's tons and tons of that going on in the background as well. So do you think that is gaming the system, Phil, buying some service like that or paying for it?
Yeah, I mean, I think some people might think so because it's like, well, I'm not paying for a system. People who are willing to pay for it have an advantage. I know other people had scripts set up. I remember seeing it posted for like getting virtual queues for either Guardians or Rise of Resistance.
I was this close to using that. I was this close to using it. I didn't need it though.
Yeah, but I mean that's another thing that people do. That if you have access, if you're willing to build this script and have set that up on your phone, that's different than using the proper way that Disney has it set up. But again, their systems still allow it. So, and there's nothing anyone could do it if they're willing to do it. So I think I don't know. I guess everybody has to have that line for where they are. I think there's a big difference between, like I said at the beginning, those things that are flat out skirting the rules that Disney says, like I said, sneaking alcohol and things like that, versus things that the system allows that if Disney wanted to stop it, they could. Everybody's able to do it. Just some people do and some people don't. But I think it's a good thing to think about. It's made me think, just because you can, should you, and stuff like that. But, like I said, I guess everyone has to decide what's right for them.
Are you going to continue doing this for the next trip? Have you thought about it?
I have thought about it. I don't know. I don't know. I might not now.
I am certainly going to use it. I mean, I have no qualms about doing it. I mean, like it costs me a $200 hold or $500 hold of my credit card, depending on if it's a hotel or a package kind of booking. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it for like a month. I'm going to do like a month-long reservation, or as far as I can go, so I can get everything that I wanted, and then I'm going to celebrate that on Twitter so everybody can yell at me. How about that? No, I mean. I might not do shadow reservations. It seems like a lot of a hassle. I mean, even though it's easy to do, I don't know. To me, it's not an ethical thing. It's a laziness thing of having to handle those type of things. But that being said, there isn't any ADRs that are like must have for me, and I can usually get one as we get closer to it. I think the only thing right now, the only one that had always given me trouble was Cinderella's Royal Table back in the day. And right now, Topolino's. I was searching for Topolino's my last trip to go there. Nothing ever popped up. And it's kind of like even Be Our Guest lunch back in the day when that was like the hottest ticket in the world. You were still able to get that the day before or the day of if you kept searching for it. So I think Topolino's might be something. If you want that, you're going to probably have to shadow reserve something to get on there, like a 10 days rather than a week out. So food for thought. Lastly, but at least, I just want to transition quickly, Phil, because this happens all the time. We have all these different segments, and then we leave the last one out. That's what we did our takes right after the news. This week's DBC engagement, I think we'll take 10 minutes here and talk about this one. This one was pretty good. We talked about last week that this week's one was future dining concepts. We wanted to be Imagineers and design a dining concept that we don't see on property. So in 10 years from now, what is the majority of the dining going to look like at Disney World, or what's the newest and the latest? We kind of come up with ideas. I'll just say mine first off the bat because I think it's rather easy. I think what you're going to see is a lot of the environments that are in the Star Cruiser, the Galactic Star Cruiser, where there's a lot more actors and it's more played up. I think they could take pieces of that experience at the Star Cruiser and put like the dining experience in a new land that they're going to put in 10 years from now, or take that experience and put it in a traditional hotel. So you have a $200 dinner show that you can go to on property, like a better version of Hoop-de-Doo, maybe, I guess, that type of thing, or all the different experiences that you see in the Star Cruiser, like the quests and all that stuff. You can easily take that as a piece and drop it somewhere else for somebody to do. That's like for the fact that like Jedi training was like basically free and easy to do. I think they're going to take something like that, but then turning into a dining experience. And I think that's what Imagineers are probably looking at, because I think plenty of people will spend $300 for a simple little meal if they get to run around and play a Jedi for like 2 hours. What was yours?
So my concept is more things that are done at your table that don't involve a human server coming to your table. So there'd be some sort of screen or something that you use to make your order. And I think they could use like either small animatronic pieces or a screen that they have, like almost like the Turtle Talk with Crush, or like they use at on the screens at the tables or near the tables at Animator's Palette on Disney Cruise Line, but somehow have some sort of automated thing that talks to you, and that's how you make your order, and you use the touchpad and things like that. Because this way it would be like having, like actual like Mickey coming to your table to take your order, but doing it through the screen, or like the Muppets or something like that, where it's much more like Disney-fied. But it's also more efficient because you don't have to wait for somebody to come to your table. Just whenever you're ready to order, you push the button and that sort of thing. And so I think that could use technology really efficiently, create immersive experiences, and also create some efficiencies. The idea I thought of was almost for the you've seen Back to the Future Part 2, when they're in the future and they're at the 80s diner, and there's like a screen that has like Max Headroom or like Michael Jackson or whatever, and they're the ones taking the order and describing the food to you and stuff like that.
Well, I mean, they have that technology now. I've seen it out in Vegas, and it's basically your tabletop is a giant tablet. And the menu pops up in front of you, and you can kind of touch screen and whatever. You can put your credit card down, assuming it has a chip in it, on the table. And you can put 4 people's on there, and automatically you can click and drag, split a check yourself, that type of thing. So that technology is definitely there. It's obviously expensive. The add-on would be the interaction kind of element.
Yeah.
And I think they could kind of do something like that. Even if it's one server serving 20 tables because they're just sitting at a desk kind of doing it type of thing, versus running around physically doing all that type of stuff. So I kind of dig that idea. I think that could be like the difference between, or the in between kind of selection between a quick service location and a signature dining experience or something else like that. Something in the middle there.
Coming from the community, there were definitely a lot of people had similar concepts. I think like bringing that immersive experience, things that are currently being done on the cruise line to the parks. TL Madden mentioned that, something like the Frozen show that they have on the Wish, but bringing that to either the parks or at least a resort where you kind of have like a show, like the seating is almost like a theater in the round, and you have a show in the middle while you're eating and stuff like that. So I guess a little bit like Hoop-de-Doo, but like obviously more of a show with a story and things like that. Other people also mentioned using technology for like bringing the food to you. Finn Whitman posted like a Ratatouille attraction where they use like Amazon delivery robots that
Some
feel
restaurants do that.
yeah, like so like it's like the rats are delivering the food to you using that technology. Other ideas were expanding Skipper's Canteen and maybe even putting the tables up in the treehouse. But I think immersion is definitely sort of like the general theme I got, that they want it to be more of an experience than nobody even really talked about the specifics of the food. It was more about kind of that immersion experience that would be provided.
Everybody wanted some kind of experience that was just not ordering food and sitting down and eating it. That was the general theme. It was basically, how do I eat a meal like Cinderella's Royal Table, but I want them all over the park.
Yeah.
And even if it's no characters, at least the theming is top notch. I think a lot of people, no one was really demanding characters and character dining, but they wanted a true immersive dining experience. And the cheapest one is kind of like Rainforest Cafe or T-Rex restaurant, those type of things.
Yeah.
But not as quite as a little bit more intimate, I guess. Right? It's a little more of a custom feel to the whole thing. So I think Disney will trend towards there, whether it's going to be attached to another Star Cruiser where it's got a $5,000 price tag behind it, or if they build specific buildings inside the parks to have basically the evolution of Be Our Guest, because Be Our Guest is basically a giant cafeteria where you're pushing a lot of people through, but in an amazingly beautiful built building. Maybe they could build something else like that, but have right now what is the prefix is like $60 per adult, essentially right around the $60 mark, $59 to like $65, I think. But basically triple that. So it's a $200 experience or $200 experience, and you're getting a good meal, but it's a $60 Disney World meal, but you're getting a $90.
But you know what? I think a lot of people, if they offered a Star Cruiser meal, people would pay $200.
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
No, I mean they'd have reservations completely sold out day one for every single day for that type of thing, and you don't need actors doing that every single day. You could still have your normal wait staff that kind of maybe gets into it a little bit, maybe it doesn't really make a difference, because you're eating a meal on the deck of the Millennium Falcon or something, or on a Star Destroyer cafeteria somewhere, and you just have, whatever it might be. So I think a lot of people are paying for that, or would pay for that, and are currently paying for that in the Star Cruiser. What are we talking about next week? What is this week's DVC?
Yeah, so next week, actually, it's been on my brain for a while. I was going to ask you this as like the Ask Me Anything question that we never seem to get to. But one thing I talked about was Oogie Boogie Bash over at Disney California Adventure in California seems to have a different feel than Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, that it's a little bit scary, a little bit more grown up. Now, it's nowhere near like, say, Halloween Horror Nights at Universal, but it has a little bit, it's not as kiddie as Mickey's Not So Scary. And so my thought is, I guess the question out is, would you want to see a second Halloween event at Walt Disney World, but at a different park, so not at Magic Kingdom, that was a little bit more grown up? So kind of in between Mickey's Not So Scary and Halloween Horror Nights? And if so, where would you put it, and what would it include? Like what would you want to see at it?
Oh, I mean, I've got all the answers, but we'll save them for next week. And for those that are listening, I don't participate in these during the week, because I wait until now to talk about them. But we hope to steer the conversation that way. Everybody's been awesome with the engagement for days upon days. So if you're on Discord but haven't participated, everybody's down there talking about it. And if you are not part of Discord, hop on and join the conversation and have your response shown, talked about on the show, where we either say that's a great idea or potentially ridicule you on the air. But no, we won't ridicule you. We just won't use your answer unless it's completely ridiculous and it's kind of funny. That being said, Phil, I think we're done for the day. And thank you for listening, everybody, and we will catch you next week. Take care, everybody.
Bye.